डे ब्रेक आप सुन रहे हैं विवेक और म्यूरल आपके साथ। 5 जून आज का डेट 9:01 एंड यस एवरी मंडेज एंड फ्राइडेज टॉक कंप्लायंस होता है ब्रॉट टू यू बाय टैली सॉल्यूशंस और बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग एक्सपर्ट गेस्ट आते हैं। ऑल थैंक्स टू टैली सॉल्यूशंस हु ब्रिंग दिस अवेयरनेस टू अस। आज के हमारे गेस्ट जो है ही इज अ रेगुलर, ही इज सीए अनुराग चतुर्वेदी, चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफ एंडरसन यूएई। 20 साल से भी ज्यादा उनका एक्सपीरियंस है and he's had a distinguished career serving large and complex global clients, and he has served as a specialist in tax. He's currently, in fact, he was the former chairman of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Dubai chapter's executive committee as well. Anurag has advised global and local businesses on how direct and indirect taxes impact their business and effective ways to address growing compliance need. He is a Middle East leader for VAT and custom for Anderson and also a board member. Regularly feature होते हैं मीडिया में भी with his expert opinions and comments.
Absolutely, and throughout Anurag's career, he has helped clients address a range of issues, including international tax, strategy and technology adoption, and transformation. Now, his clients have included large multinational organizations spanning the public, retail, hospitality, banking, and aviation industries. And right now, I think it is time to welcome him onto the show. Welcome, Anurag.
Thank you so much for having me here, and I think it's a great time. Within the UAE itself, where the landscape of UAE is changing. We have just seen that 1st June, which was a historical day, because that was a day when the UAE has changed from non-tax to a tax regime completely. I mean, from a corporate tax standpoint, VAT we have seen it in 2018, excise we have seen in 2018, and economic substance regulation. So there's a lot much happening in this space, just all to bring to transparency within the UAE, so that the global businesses can have the more robust, information driven competitive landscape.
And we've seen compliance जो है ना वो काफी बढ़ भी रहा है, but also there are these speculations that come, जैसे VAT आता है, excise आता है, corporate tax आता है, speculations होना शुरू होते हैं, and बार बार मिनिस्ट्री क्लैरिफाई करती है कि नहीं आने वाला है इनकम टैक्स। तो इस पे जो स्पेकुलेशंस आते हैं उस पे कुछ कहना चाहेंगे आप?
See, income tax is a very different subject itself. When it comes to personal tax, the personal tax is a very big change from any country's standpoint.
Right.
Because what will happen when you try to tax an individual, you need to provide the eminent benefit, which includes your retirement benefit,
voting
your
rights,
unemployment, and many other rights, within the country
Right.
itself. So I don't think that the personal income tax is on the way, and in fact the ministry has ruled it out that they are not going to have it, in very
Anytime
near
soon.
future.
Superb, yeah. But इसका ये जो impact है corporate tax का, ये 2025 onwards is what we'll actually see जब returns आप file करोगे, जब आप पता होगा this is what you think?
See, the corporate tax is in effect from 1st June 2023. And what is happening now, the first return for a person who's filing in June is going to come in March. Right? So March 25, they will be filing the return.
Right.
And that's where the tax
Implications,
start.
Yeah.
But implications start from today.
Okay.
Because, what you're going to pay in 25 is on the work and the activity that you conducted within this particular year.
Correct.
So the businesses need to be careful, and they need to be analyzing what is the provisions of the law, so that they can plan their the business accordingly,
right.
and then they can plan their finances as well to pay off the liability which will be due in 2025.
And
Right.
recently we had these amazing changes as well.
So until now, I think we've got clarity on corporate tax quite a bit, right? But there were still certain grey areas that were yet to be discovered, like your free zones and the qualifying persons and all of that. Has there been clarity on that right now?
Yeah, so what has happened last week, it was a fantastic week where the Ministry of Finance has brought a lot of clarity on free zones. Much awaited decision which was there, what is the qualifying income? It's a cabinet decision number 55. And what are the qualifying activities, which is the cabinet decision number 139, have been issued.
Okay.
And I must say that I must compliment the Ministry of Finance, because the way they drafted the decisions, they cover businesses all around UAE.
Right.
They brought a lot of transparency into the ecosystem, and it's a very well drafted law. I must say that it's a very well drafted law, considering the mainland entities, free zone entities, how the transactions between them is going to happen out there. So lot much clarity they have brought into the picture, but yet there are a lot of interpretational issues
Correct.
which is still prevailing out there.
Yeah.
Then how this will be seen, how this will be taxed out there. Yeah.
But I think
Right.
सबसे पहला question है कि should I, small business relief, should I avail for it or should I enter the qualified, non-qualified income category? वो भी एक दुविधा है.
So, what is a small business relief? A small business relief is for those, person out there whose turnover is less than 3 million. And this is only until 2026. So, it is for 3 years.
3 years.
Why this have been brought in picture? Because many countries do that to promote the entrepreneurship.
Correct.
They wanted to create a lot of startup driven organization which has just started the business, and they are trying to understand the nuances of it. So when the tax comes in picture, the ministry thought that they should give those new entrepreneurs a chance, quite a few years, to adopt to the taxes. Then and you need to see that a small business relief, that 3 million threshold, which means if your profit is more than 12.5% net profit, then it makes sense for you to have small business relief.
Right.
But if the profit is less than 12.5%, then you anyway have a threshold which is 375.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but Anurag, have people really understood that? Because I remember initially when corporate tax was supposed to be rolled out, we were talking about people shifting their basis from a free zone to mainland, or trying to opt the other way around to save on a few, save on basically on the corporate tax, not realizing that there is a longer route to this. Have businesses now kind of streamlined? I mean, because you're in, you're in the forefront and probably dealing with a lot of these businesses. What's the outcome like from them?
So essentially, businesses have understood. I mean, a lot of business understood. But when it comes to the startup entities within the mainland or within the free zone, I seen that a lot of people don't understand that.
Right.
And there's a specific provision within the corporate tax law, which is general anti-abuse provisions.
Right.
So GAR. What it says that in nutshell for public, it says that if you try to do any sort of structuring, which is predominantly for tax saving, saving or tax evasion purposes, then you will be covered under the corporate tax, though you done all these schemes. But authority have all the right to open that and reinstate that particular position.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. There's also another question that has just come in, and it says whether trading entities now based out of designated zones selling goods to free zone person, mainland or overseas, will they benefit from the 0% corporate tax?
So trading entities, when I say about designated zones, so a lot of people don't understand designated zone. What does a designated zone means? So let us understand the designated zone. It means that any free zone which is covered by the fences.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, which has a custom control.
Okay.
So if a free zone which has a custom control, like for example Jebel Ali free zone, Dubai Airport free zone, right? So these are the examples. We have Hamriya free zone in Sharjah. So these free zones, if you do any sort of trade from there, you need to see quite a few conditions linked with it.
Okay.
So there are two set of things. If a designated and a business is in DG and it is selling to another free zone person,
Okay.
right? So that distribution activity is covered under the qualifying income.
Okay.
Now, there's another condition linked with it, that you need to see that the person who's receiving these goods should use these goods for its own beneficial purpose. It should not be conduit entity, which means like you should not have a contractual back-to-back relationship link with the receipt of these goods so that you pass on to somebody.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And, we will continue this conversation. We'll get into the depth of this, Anurag, but just after this.
Talk 100.3.
डे ब्रेक आप सुन रहे हैं, विवेक म्यूरल आपके साथ. दिस इज टॉक कंप्लायंस ब्रॉट यू बाय टैली सॉल्यूशंस. जरूर लॉग ऑन कीजिए tallysolutions.com पे, एंड वी हैव गॉट सी अनुराग चतुर्वेदी with us to tell us everything about qualifying, non-qualifying income. You have your questions. आप हमें 0586861003 पे WhatsApp कर सकते हैं.
Absolutely. Anurag, we were talking about designated areas, understanding what it is to be doing trade within your own area. Could you talk to us about this, and have businesses in the UAE actually understood this concept already?
Yeah, I think the businesses has a lot of clarity on the DG side of things, because we have 5 years of value-added tax. So the DG list is as per the value added tax laws, So people understand definitely DG, but critical aspect that every business need to understand from a qualifying perspective, that whenever you do the sale from a DG to a non-DG, free zone person, so it called qualifying person, which is having a presence anywhere in the free zone, which meets certain criteria which has been listed out there, and they do certain activity which is listed as a qualifying activity.
Correct.
Right. So then only you become the qualifying free zone person, and also there's a limit called de minimis limit.
Okay.
So what is this limit is all about? So a person which is operating any of the free zone,
Right.
any whether DG or non-DG, perform certain activities which is listed out there as qualifying activities, and does not have non-qualifying activity beyond 5% of total revenue or 5 million. So essentially, if let's say you're operating out of DMCC, you do all the qualifying activities, right? But your non-qualifying activity exceeds 5% of your turnover.
Okay.
Then you become non-qualifying person. The moment you become non-qualifying person, your status changes to the normal person, which is 9% corporate tax.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's where I think people falter, right?
People falter. So there's a lot much up now. What are these activities? If we can list down these activities out there.
But matlab, is it extensive list or is it a?
It is a very precise list,
Okay.
which has number of activities. If you fall within them, it's good that you qualified out there.
Right.
But if you don't fall within them, then you are non-qualifying person out there. Should your turnover from those non-qualifying activity exceed 5% or 5 million.
Right. So nature of business really doesn't matter much, I think. It's all about the threshold जो आप cross करते हो.
Yeah, and activities. So
Right.
essentially,
Activities.
corporate tax is all about, what they did is basically they didn't just exempt the sectors. They didn't just exempt the free zone or mainland.
बराबर.
It is all about activities. If you perform certain activity which is in the list of qualifying activities, yes,
Correct,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
right.
So for example, as we all know that UAE is promoting a lot of manufacturers, right? So manufacturing in Emirates.
Correct.
So they have excluded, they have put together these manufacturers in the qualifying activity list. So if you manufacture within the
UAE,
free zone,
Emirates.
if you manufacture within the free zone itself, then it fall within the qualifying activity.
Okay.
If you process these goods, which means let's say you manufacture good manufactured in the UAE or non-manufactured in the UAE, but you process them, which means let's say you bring out two elements and you assemble them together. That activity is there, right? Important thing that the central bank and the insurance authorities, they are promoting reinsurance business is all. So reinsurance business within the free zone
Right.
is under the qualifying activity.
Okay.
Right. So likewise, the logistics sectors. UAE is one of the the globally place for logistics.
Correct.
Right.
So logistics services is there covered into the qualifying activity list.
Right.
Right. So if you fall within the qualifying activities, you are a qualified person and you have income from there. And if you have ancillary income related to these activity, that is also covered into it.
Okay.
However, if you do non-qualifying activity, then you need to look into the threshold. And at any point in time, the moment you cross the threshold, you come
And the
as an
qualifiers.
Under the, yeah.
अमेजिंग है यार. एंड ऑल्सो DMCC हो गया, दुबई मीडिया सिटी हो गया, DIFC जो है, तो ये सारे हैज बीन इन टर्म्स ऑफ UAE कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स लॉ, ये सारे फ्री जोन्स हैं. एंड फ्री जोन्स का एक लिमिटेशन था ना कि 0% ही रहेगा, तब जाके मैंने कंपनी खोली है वहाँ पे.
Yeah,
नाउ
so-
व्हाट हैपेंस टू दैट?
Yeah, so essentially what happens, free zones are always predominantly meant to deal with outside person.
बराबर.
And there's a certain activity that you can perform within the free zone itself. Now, we have around more than 50 free zones within the UAE.
Correct.
Right? However, the exhaustive list of that yet to be published, which all those free zones which is there. So
Okay.
what happened, if a business at the moment operating within a free zone, they can go to their regulators and they can ask whether this specific free zone is covered within the benefit of corporate tax or not, because the list of free zones as per the corporate tax law is not yet published.
Okay.
However, it is assumed that DMCC, Media City, Dubai International Financial Center, Abu Dhabi Global Market, they are covered because they are doing certain activity which is like the fund management,
Right.
wealth
There's
management.
services as well. So even services are also.
Yeah, so this is activity, again qualifying activity. There are certain services are there, which is included, like as I mentioned about reinsurance services, the fund management, the wealth management services,
Right.
logistic services. So they are included in the list of qualifying activities, and should the businesses provide any of such services, they are within the qualifying.
एंड ऑल्सो व्हेन वी टॉकिंग अबाउट कि मेनलैंड कंपनी है, फ्री जोन कंपनी
जी।
है, फ्री जोन कंपनी अगर मेनलैंड एक्टिविटी कर रही है तो वुड इट मेक सेंस कि अगर वो मेनलैंड में रिस्ट्रक्चर करके कंपनी या सब्सिडरी से ही बिजनेस करे विद इन द मेनलैंड सो दैट द अकाउंट्स आर आल्सो केप्ट ऑर्गेनाइज्ड दैट वे? इज दैट रिकमेंडेड?
Yeah, it's pretty much one business need to see their structure and their customer base, where exactly the customer base. Now, actually, once a corporate tax is in effect, predominantly just moving out from mainland to the free zone just because of tax benefit is not advisable.
Okay.
It's not advisable, because then you may get indulged into the GAR provision, which is general anti-abuse provisions out there. And once that invoked out there, then authorities may go back and reinstate your position to the previous period, and then
But Anurag, I mean, in certain circumstances, it would also be in best interest for the business to make that move from free zone to mainland, right? So what are those criteria that define the move? Because right now I'm assuming companies are a little baffled and confused as to what to do, whether should they go with stick around in free zone, or should they opt for the small business relief, or should they make that move to mainland even? So what are those criteria, the defining criteria for all of this?
So any move that you make out there from one place to another, I mean, just to take tax advantages, tax should not be the base for making the decision. Ideally, there should be a business region. So, for example, let's say an entity which operates into the mainland, right, and it find logistically much more efficient if they shift to, let's say, Jebel Ali, because all they can save a lot on logistic cost.
Correct. Yeah.
They got, let's say, their own warehouse. They bought out their own warehouse in Jebel Ali. So then it makes a lot of sense for them to move out to Jebel Ali. So if there's a business region which is there, definitely it makes sense. Now when it comes to small business relief, whether you should claim it or not claim it. Now when you claim the small business relief, right, so today you opt for a small business relief. The moment you opt for it, if you make any losses during this particular period, it's not it will not be carry forward.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you started business, and all of a sudden, let's say there is a slump into business, and instead of making a profit, you made the losses.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you'll be deprived of carrying forward of this loss.
Okay.
Of losses, right? There's a number of deductions which is available there, which may not be applicable to you. So I think it's important that the businesses should take appropriate due consultation from the people out there,
Right.
if they're not clear, because these cabinet decisions are quite complex. It has very relatively complex structures, because you need to read multiple cabinet decisions and try to analyze all these conditions here and
Right.
there.
Correct.
So if you are in a state of doubt, you should definitely consult somebody who is experienced in this.
एंड यस, अगर आपके पास भी कोई भी सवाल, कोई भी डाउट है एज अ स्मॉल बिजनेस एज वेल, दिस इज योर गोल्डन अपॉर्चुनिटी. सी अनुराग चतुर्वेदी विद अस राइट नाउ. You can give us a call 800-81003.
Talk 100.3.
Welcome to Daybreak with Vivek Sanal and myself, Mirulise. And currently we are in conversation with CA Anurag Chaturvedi. We're talking to him all things corporate tax. Anurag, before we could go on a break, we were discussing, about subsidiaries. We're discussing about about companies and their branches. So talk to us about, in a given situation, if a company is in Sweden, the headquarters is in Sweden, and the branch is in Dubai. So how does the taxation work in a situation like this?
So essentially, for a foreign-owned businesses, when we look into that, if they have a subsidiary within the UAE, that will be subject to corporate tax. And again, we need to see that where exactly that subsidiary is located. If it is in free zone, then we need to go and analyze the criteria of qualifying, non-qualifying income. But if it is within the mainland, then it will be subject to 9%. However, if you see that within the UAE as well, we have two predominantly key zones out there, which is Dubai International Financial Center and Abu Dhabi Global Market. There are a lot of holding companies out there. A lot of family-owned businesses go and make the foundations. They make the holding company out there, and those holding companies basically control a lot of businesses within the UAE, be it mainland, be it free zone.
Okay.
And when the decision comes in 139, it talks about headquarters activities. And what it does is basically the headquarter activities are basically qualifying activities. So if a holding company provides certain managerial and other services to its subsidiaries, and it drives certain revenue from there, it considered a qualifying activity.
Right.
So that's a big relief, because globally, if you see that, globally every country would want to have this headquarter activity within the country, because that is where the global businesses they come and they set their headquarters in that particular country. If you see that today, Saudi Arabia, they're inviting all the global companies to come and set up their headquarters there.
Right.
And UAE is one of those favorite destinations around the world. They're top 3 destination within the world to allow businesses to come and set up their headquarters here. And that's why this is a greater move by Ministry of Finance to have the headquarter activity within the qualifying activity. Yeah.
So tax purposes के लिए तो बहुत अच्छा benefit है for the company. Other than that, what benefits you think would be good for the companies, global companies, to set up a headquarter here?
So if the global companies coming within the UAE, they get, first of all, the choice of law they wanted to apply to the business. So it's a common law. So English common law that follows Abu Dhabi Global Market and Dubai International Financial Center. They have English common law. So that gives a lot of relief. Then you can choose your jurisdictions where you wanted to, should there be any difficulty out there, where you wanted to execute those judgments. So you can make a choice of the jurisdiction where you are comfortable. So be it in India, be it any other part of the world, you can have this jurisdiction, from a legally standpoint out there. Secondly, it's a free economy. UAE is a free economy. You have finances available. You have a global businesses available here, and from here you can connect. It's a central place. So Asia, Europe, and Africa, you can very well connect here, travel out there, because that's a biggest problem in many jurisdictions.
Right. And for instance, if I have, say, my headquarters in Europe, right? I mean, because you're talking about those kind of brands moving to UAE, and we're seeing that in the newspaper as well. What is it that that they're not getting out there, which is why they would look into making that move here?
Lowest in the world, 9%?
9% is lowest in the world. So Hungary and UAE are lowest, 9%. But moving out headquarters from the part in Europe or US or any other part of the world, let's say India, obviously the first reason is that there's a heavy taxes out there. So tax in excess of 18%.
Correct.
So that is one reason. Second thing is that when you look into the headquarters, so I'll give you example of a business. Let's say, for example, if you talk about businesses like an insurance business, the big large size businesses out there which has a global presence. So if you look into Asia Pacific, somebody sitting out there in Asia Pacific, every time you want to travel across the board, you need to pass through UAE.
Right.
So it practically makes a lot of sense for people to have their manpower and then people here within the UAE, so that any destination within Asia is within 7 to 8 hours. So that becomes much more convenient from that particular perspective, and then it is well compliant country.
Correct.
Right.
So here is every single thing is fair, and people operate under the huge trust.
Which is amazing. बहुत सारे benefits actually. The ones which see Anurag mentioned, I think you will not find it in any newspaper, any Google article. What he's mentioned is from his current expertise as well. But also transfer pricing provisions के बारे में हम बात करेंगे in a while after news and sports. अगर आपके पास कोई भी सवाल, you can give us a call 800-81003 या WhatsApp 0586861003. We're talking about corporate tax. This is brought to you by Tally Solutions. Talk compliance every Mondays and Fridays. सुनते रहिए.
Talk 100.3.
डे ब्रेक आप सुन रहे हैं. विवेक म्यूरल आपके साथ. सी अनुराग चतुर्वेदी with us. This is Talk Compliance brought to you by Tally Solutions.
Absolutely, and right now I think it is time that we get a little clarity where corporate tax is concerned. But Anurag, we were talking about transfer pricing. We'll get to that subject, but after a caller who's been on hold.
Satish, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
आप बात कर सकते हैं अनुराग जी से. He's listening to you.
Good morning, Anurag.
Good morning, Satish.
Yeah, I had a small inquiry regarding, say, my manufacturing unit is in India, and my billing is done from here.
Okay.
So, would there be any tax implications? The entire billing is done here and the profits are booked in UAE.
So, where is your entity is located?
In the mainland and Freezone, both places are there.
Yeah. So essentially, what happens as per the cabinet decisions, what it came out there, if you manufacture or process within the UAE, then you fall within the criteria of qualifying activity. But should you not, then more likely it will be subject to tax. It will be in non-qualifying activities essentially.
And what about the re-export from here?
So if you manufacture here and then re-export.
No, not manufacture. I'm getting it manufactured, importing it, re-exporting it to another country.
So what happens the moment you import within the UAE from designated zones? So if let's say your entity is established in one of the designated zone and you import those goods, now getting that imported within the designated zone and then clearing it out to the mainland is a qualifying activity. And the moment you try to export out there, then it may not fall within the ambit of qualifying activity because you did not manufacture or did not process. So long as it is not manufactured or processed, then it will be non-qualifying activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. And what if there is a branch outside of? It's a branch, okay, for the entity in Dubai. There's a branch in a taxable country.
Mm-hmm.
So the revenue that is generated in those locations, will it get added for the taxation purpose over here?
Yeah, so you have choice. You have to make a choice out there with respect to branches outside UAE. So you need to make an election as to whether you wanted to have them taxed here or you wanted to have them taxed in the other jurisdiction.
If there is no taxation over there,
yeah.
So then I can keep it away out of the
you can do that, and any expenses in relation to those branches will not be deductible expenses.
That is good.
Yeah.
ठीक है सतीश, thank you so much for your सवाल.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day. And आपके पास भी सवाल है, आप व्हाट्सएप कर सकते हैं 0586861003.
Absolutely, and right now bringing you back to the conversation of transfer pricing. Please shed some light on this subject.
So, Neural, what happens on transfer pricing? It's a concept basically.
Ji.
So what it says that it applies when you deal with the related party. So let's say you have an entity and your wife have another entity and you provide certain services out there, right? So when you provide the services to your wife's entity or your family entity out there, whatever the services that you provide should be at arm's length. And what is the means of arm's length? Arm's length means that whenever you provide services, it should be at the market price. I mean, and what the market price is? The services that you provide to the third party. Right. So whatever the price that you charge to third party, you should charge the same price to your related entity. Right.
Correct, yeah.
And so what happens? These entities within the free zone, and if you say that they are qualifying free zone entities,
Okay.
the moment they deal with any of the related party, they need to maintain and comply with transfer pricing provisions. So transfer pricing says that arm's length, and if you're dealing with within your entities, related entity or connected person, then you need to ensure that you are abide by the transfer pricing regulation. And connected person means also your close relatives and key managerial person within the business.
Right.
चाहे वो relative भी हो और वो third degree relative तक भी जा सकता है, ऐसा कुछ है.
Yeah.
Also, whether income earned from computer software will be considered as excluded activity not eligible for 0% corporate tax. ये एक बहुत interesting सवाल है.
Yeah, actually, why computer software?
So if you see that, again, I'll take you back to the qualifying activities threshold. So
Okay.
when it comes to analysis of the law, one has to read that what is exclusively defined and what is not defined. So what the ministry has done, the ministry has identified activities which is qualifying activities, right? So when you say qualifying activity, it's manufacturing of the goods, the processing of the goods, holding of shares and other securities, ownership, management and operation of ships, headquarter activity, treasury and finance related services, fund management, wealth management, finance and leasing of the aircraft, distribution of goods and material,
Right.
and logistics services, and any ancillary services. Now, if any services that you provide, which is not listed here, it fall within the list of non-qualifying.
Non-qualifying. Amazing.
And the moment you do the non-qualifying activity, you need to look into the threshold, which is like 5% of overall revenue
Okay.
or 5 million, whichever is less.
So Tally Solutions don't come under. We will talk about this as well. अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल है 808-1003 is the number to call.
Talk 100.3.
Welcome to Daybreak with Vivek Sanal and myself, Murali Deesan. Currently in conversation with CA Anurag Chaturvedi. We're discussing about corporate tax, about compliance. Moving forward, Anurag, could you talk to me a little bit about businesses being compliant where corporate tax is concerned, and what is it that they must bear in mind now that we've entered the ticking bomb kind of phase right now, so that we can get everything organized?
आप जरूर आंसर ये कीजिएगा, but we've got Danish with us on the phone line right now and he would like to speak and we'll get more clarity on this question. Danish, hi, good morning.
Good morning, Anurag. How are you?
Good morning, Danish. I'm good.
Yes, good. So, I was not able to hear the question correctly. If you can repeat that, please, for me. Mr.
नहीं, क्वेश्चन आपको पूछना है सीए अनुराग से. If you have any question, if you don't have, then it's all right. We have a lot of questions. Danish, you're a business owner?
No. I work in an insurance company in UAE.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
And so, since you have given me the opportunity to take me on the line, what I would like to know is that where do you see that the current fiscal situation or financial situation going to be happening? If Anurag will be able to guide me with that.
Financial, what will be
financial situation?
situation?
The financial, do you see any recession coming or anything like that in the next short term or long term? That's what I would like to know.
Well, I can say one thing about this is that UAE's economy is growing every year on a year basis, and then today we've seen a lot of economic driven project which is coming out, and UAE announcing a lot of key projects, and that will ensure to keep the UAE economy on uprising side. And I don't see in near future there's any need to worry about for businesses, and essentially a lot of FDI is coming to UAE, a lot of global businesses turning out to UAE. So the economy is in right track, and it's prospering further, I believe.
Nice. Danish?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. बहुत interesting point दानिश ने raise किया because of the recession fears and Fed rates जो बढ़ते जा रहे, inflation हर जगह बढ़ रहा है. So it was a very valid question on a broader finance terms as well.
Yeah. In fact, you see, global businesses, when there's a global situation coming out there and interest rates rises,
correct.
The people are not able to finance their businesses, and you don't see the impact today. You continue to see that impact in a year or half later when your EMIs are going on
increasing
higher side. And that becomes a difficult situation where people who have a higher exposure and they didn't plan it well, then there's a situation.
Also, Anurag, now there's this common notion, right? When you start seeing that the government is putting regulations in place and rules in place, you automatically, the human mind, is now thinking, the economies might not be doing that great, which is why I'm imposed with all of these rules and regulations. These are misconceptions that are formulated in the world of finance.
Yeah, I think it's totally misconception because when the taxes and regulation comes out picture, these regulations are measures to give that support which is required in the economy today. I mean, all the global economy, which is the developed countries, they all have taxes. It means they are not doing well. They're all doing well.
Correct.
When the taxes comes out there, what happens? It brings transparency. Transparency is a very critical factor for any business. Let's say today you start a business. You don't know what is the competitive rate in the industry today. What is the margin you should anticipate?
Correct.
What is the cost? What is the GP? You don't know because this information is not available.
Right.
But when the taxes is there, everybody is going to submit their financials. People are going to submit their financials to authorities to validate. Now, this data will come realistically to the authorities and they'll validate. And they'll put more measures out there to see situations. Let's say, for example, there's a monopoly in any of the industry. The government can help to open ways to create more business opportunities for people.
Correct.
So, regulations are not deterrent. I think they are enablers for, growth of GDP.
Nice.
That's how I see it.
Amazing. And yes, let's come back to the question जो आपसे हमने पूछा था कि because it's a new thing for a lot of businesses over here. So what should they keep in mind when it comes to compliance?
I think the very first thing I'll say that ki businesses should start maintaining their books.
Okay.
Because if you'll not maintain your books, and at the end of the year you anticipate your liability in any of the manner, and you file your returns, 1 year down the line or 2 years down the line or 3 years or maybe 5 years down the line, the authority will come and open your financials for that particular year, which is, let's say, the beginning of the year.
Right.
You're gonna pay the penalties, which is of huge amounts. Right, and that's what we've seen within when the VAT came in picture, transition provision. We have seen that. So I'll say that important aspect, one should maintain the books. They should see that a software which is handy, which has good capability to store the data,
Correct.
which has easy to extract reports. That is where they need to see that. I think, like, I'll just share a story, of my, when I started my CA journey out there. So I was in one of the manufacturing plant of paper.
Wow.
So a paper mill out there.
Right.
And I went out there, and this was my first exposure of practical on ground out there when I went out there to learn. So whatever accounting that you learn in the books is very different
Correct, yeah.
than when you see in
Reality.
reality, right?
Yeah.
So how do you understand? How do the transaction happen? So my first software was Tally. So the accountant was maintaining their books on Tally.
Okay.
And I must say that it was so easy for me to understand and comprehend how the accounting actually work
Okay.
from a Tally standpoint.
Okay.
So you need not to have a very sophisticated systems. You can start with very, very basic, which you can understand, which your accountant can understand, which your people can understand. Very simplified version of accounting. If you can do that, I think that's a critical, very, very basic step one business should do that.
फाउंडेशन आपका स्ट्रॉन्ग तभी हो सकता है जब आपके पास यू हैव अ सॉफ्टवेयर विच हेल्प्स यू परफॉर्म योर बेसिक एक्टिविटीज एंड वो भी करेक्टली एंड विच इज ऑल्सो फेड अप्रूव्ड एज वेल.
Absolutely.
Not Fed approved, FTA approved as well. But also very interesting, जब आपने कहा, very interesting story कि शुरुआत practical experience कितना important है. And also we see that there is so much of jargon also used by the ministry.
Right.
कि for example, layman चलो मुश्किल है. But then a role of a CA or an expert comes in so handy to make it so simplified. And this is what Tally Solutions has been doing all these episodes. 29 episodes now.
Right. So also, which is amazing. I mean, congratulations to the entire team of Tally and to the amazing guests that we get in our studios. But Anurag, when you talk about businesses that are, under this ambit, I mean, every single business is right now in the ambit of the corporate tax, right? You got to register yourself for it. But for small businesses that don't understand, yes, if you're a multinational firm or if you are a mid-sized firm, do you have the capability of having a CA, of hiring a kind of a person who can look after your accounts? What happens to small-time family-owned businesses?
So, very small step, good question that you ask about it. I must say that how people should start their journey. So, it goes with creating a knowledge base. If you see that, when corporate tax come in picture, a lot of professionals, they are releasing a lot of information which is easy to comprehend, right? So, people can go to respective, company's website, like for example in case of us, they can go on our LinkedIn page in Anderson, or they can go on our website, and they'll find a lot of information which is very handy, which is easy to understand, and they maintain this repository of those information and apply on their businesses.
Right.
So
So it's very easy that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a very impactful and in-depth session today with C. Anurag Chaturvedi, and I think as you move forward, बहुत जल्दी लोग हमारे सर्विसेज भी लेंगे शायद, consultancy.
Can you please come in and start talking to us about corporate tax? I think we've mastered this now.
All
now.
thanks
Thank
to
you, yeah.
C. Anurag, all thanks to all the maestros who keep coming here. Tally Solutions, thank you very much for this opportunity of learning and also growing with compliance as well. Any quick word for everyone, for all the companies out there listening to us?
I think every company should start analyzing the business. It's very crucial for them.
Okay.
Don't delay it. Analyze your business, analyze your transactions, look into your profit and loss account, your trial balances, and go each line by line item. So the approach towards compliance begins not at the overall profit level. It start with the very basic transaction level.
Super.
So go on transaction, analyze your transaction, see where exactly there's opportunity for you, to have efficiency. And once you have efficiency, I think you will be able to limit your exposure towards a tax and compliant. So maintain books, maintain things out there properly, and look into the transaction. And I must compliment Tally, because when it comes to accounting, I think accounting and Tally has a synonym to each other. That's where things goes around. And thank you so much for bringing such kind of shows which help businesses in general to enhance their knowledge on the new regulations. So
एंड वर्बल एक्सप्लेनेशन जो मिलता है फ्रॉम द एक्सपर्ट ना, इसका कोई मैच
You'll
ही
not
नहीं है, इसका
get
कोई
it in any
तोड़ ही
other
नहीं
book.
है. एंड रियली थैंक यू सो मच, अनुराग. थैंक यू.
thank you.